Hello and welcome to another Design R1 training video. In today's video I'm going to show you guys how to download and install Act Premium for web for version 16. So what I do is I like to launch my web browser and I like to search for it on Google to get the latest download. So you see I've actually searched for this before. If I go to Act space v16 Premium download and click on search, uh, the first link that comes up in the natural listings is a link to the downloads, and I want to download Act Premium. So when I click on download here, you'll see that it'll start my download process. It'll ask me to save the file. I've actually already downloaded this file to save time, and so I'm going to cancel that, but I've downloaded it to my desktop. It's a pretty big file, so it may take 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe even longer, depending upon the speed of your connection. Faster if you have the latest and greatest. When you double click on this little file here, you'll see that you get an extractor. And it's going to create a directory on our computer in the root of the C drive. It's going to make a folder called act_premium_web_v16sp1. What that means is we're downloading a version of Act Premium for web for version 16 that already has Service Pack 1 baked into it. And I'm on a relatively newer computer with a SSD hard drive and an Intel i7 processor, and I'm going to be able to extract this file relatively quickly. It's decompressing a 900 megabyte file and probably creating about 2 gigabytes of files on your computer. So depending upon the speed of your hard drive, this process can take anywhere from 45 seconds up to several minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the video right now. You guys don't need to listen to a bunch of dead air while it decompresses. Okay, it just got done decompressing. You can see that the installation screen pops up. And what we want to do is click on Install Act Premium for Web. And the installer is now going to launch. It's going to do a bunch of pre-checks in the background here. You may be prompted to install a C++ Microsoft Visual Studio thing that enables the installer to work properly. It's going to check to see if you have any pending reboots. It's going to check the type of operating system you have. You can see here that I'm on a desktop operating system. I'm not on a server. And it's telling me, hey, are you aware that you're installing this on a desktop and not a server? You're limited to 10 connections. Yes, that's okay. I'm going to say install anyway. Here's where it checks for reboots. If you've installed some updates and you haven't rebooted in a while, the installer is actually going to ask you and force you to reboot before it continues. But not to worry. Go ahead and say yes if that prompt comes up, because what will happen is as soon as it comes up, it will start the Act installer as soon as you reboot your computer and log back in. And so it's also making sure that Internet Explorer is closed, that Outlook is closed. You basically want to have a clean machine in a clean environment with no programs running. The only programs I have running right now is Snagit, which is what I'm using to capture the screen right now. I'm going to say next to the install for the United States and just accept everything typical. That will install SQL for you if it's not already installed. My computer that I'm on has SQL installed, and that's to save time. The SQL bit is actually the largest or the longest part of this install. It will take a good 5 to 10 minutes to install just the SQL portion. And so we want to make sure that you guys aren't wasting your time watching a SQL install. But it's pretty simple. The Act install is a next finish type of thing. Plug in a serial number. There's a couple nuances that we have to do afterwards to make sure that the Act Premium for Web portion actually works. I'll show you how to do that here. I'm going to pause the video again because all this green exclamation or this green progress bar here is going to do is move left to right a couple times. It's going to take, on my machine, it'll take about 5 minutes to install, maybe a little bit less, but we don't need to watch progress bars for 5 minutes, so I will be right back. Okay, our installation is now complete. If you'd like to open up a quick start guide, you can check this little box and click on finish. And then it'll bring you to a page that shows you some additional information that I don't think we need to go over for this video. You can then exit out of this little installer screen and notice that you now have these nice Act icons on your desktop. So on the server itself, even though it says Act Premium for Web, you still have a local premium normal user interface. And if you have an old version of Act, it's going to prompt you to update to the latest and greatest schema version. So it prompts you to make a backup, which I recommend you do. Um, I know that I'm opening up the demonstration database right now, and I'm not too concerned about a problem, but normally you would want to say yes here, make a backup, and then do the update. But for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and say no, and then press OK on that last message. That last message that I clicked OK on basically just said, all right, just so you know, I'm going to lock this database. It may take a minute or two to update it. Please don't be alarmed if it comes back and it takes a few minutes, but it has to run some SQL scripts in the background to update any previous databases you have. And since I'm installing over the top of an older version on this demonstration machine, I just wanted to show you guys what that would look like so you don't have any surprises. Here again, this is a progress bar that could take anywhere from a minute to 20 minutes depending upon the size of your database. I'm converting the demonstration database for this. Shouldn't take too long, but here again, don't want you guys watching a progress bar for 4 minutes on a YouTube video. So I'll go ahead and pause the video and come back when it's complete. Okay, our database has been updated, so we can go ahead and click on OK to continue. And Act should open itself up normally. If you have a username and a password, it'll prompt you to enter it. But because I'm in a demonstration database and there's only one active user, Act is just going to open. So there's a couple things we have to do here to set up Act for web to work properly. I need to go to my Tools menu, choose Website Administration, and it's going to run a couple tests to make sure your web server is properly configured. And you have to pass these tests in order for the web client to work. So you start top and move to the right. We're going to test to make sure we have proper permissions and proper account setup. It's warning me again, hey, there's only 10 connections. Are you sure? Okay. User account, you need to make sure that you have proper credentials so that the impersonation user, which is going to run for and in behalf of your web clients, has the right access. I'm going to go ahead and plug in my credentials here, and it will test those to make sure that everything's working. And then we have to actually add the database. So it created a virtual directory for me called APFW. I'm now going to add a database, and we're just going to do the demonstration database here. I go to Documents, down here to Act, and then Data, Databases, and the 14 demo. Username is Chris Huffman, no password in a demonstration database. It's going to test that, make sure that it can connect and validate the user credentials. And another successful test. It's going to tell you it needs to restart or reset IIS. It's going to do that in the background. If you're on a big server, you need to be careful about when you do this because you don't want to be bouncing IIS because that affects all of your web services. And you want to schedule that for after hours or on a weekend. You can do a session timeout. We try to keep this under an hour. And this is how often people automatically get logged out of the system. And we're almost done. So we've added the database, and if we open up a web browser, we can now go to our local host /APFW. Local host is the local IP address. You can also do 127.0.0.1. Virtual directory is APFW, and we're going to see here if Act Premium for Web will launch. And there is some additional settings that you can do that you may have to do on your server to make it work. We'll know here momentarily if this worked. Notice I'm in Firefox browser. Internet Explorer and Firefox are the best ways to access this. And it should come up here with the screen any moment to let me know what's going on. And here it is. Here's the Act for Web login screen. You can plug in a username, which is Chris Huffman. No password again. And you can log into your Act database via a web client through a web browser and do most of what you can do from a desktop standpoint inside of a web client. So if I click on Contacts, notice here's what my contact detail view looks like on Act for Web. If I switch back over to my desktop product, it looks real similar. So let me just expand this out so it looks normal. There we go. So that's the basics. Now there's a couple advanced things you might need to do inside IIS. You might have to configure the app pool to make sure it's 32-bit and not 64-bit. And you might have to tweak some of the impersonation user permissions to make sure that you have all the permissions set properly. Contact your consultant or contact Designer One if you need to go over those settings. But all in all, it's a pretty simple process. It should be next, finish type of thing. There is some nuance and there is some order that you need to do to make this happen correctly. And if you run across any problems, by all means, please feel to give us a shout. We'd love to help you out. Thank you very much. Have a great day.